And now I would like to invite people to give some feedback from their discussion. And we're going to allow 10 minutes for this. So when you give feedback, don't talk for too long, then the more people can have an opportunity.
Okay.
So you should be muted, except when, except when I invite you to speak. So some people are not muted, but you should be. And so would anybody like to give a little bit of feedback about this question? What kind of new civilization do we want, and how shall we create it? Just to say a few words about that. Would somebody like to do that? Put your hand up if you'd like. All right, then. I think Vada wants to speak. Okay, would you like to put your video on? And then you can speak.
I can't.
You can't put your video?
No, I can't. I'm
Okay.
sorry. There was just a thought in my mind while I was talking to Tzipi, who was in my group, that actually what I would like is to have this notion of no fear wherever I go in the world, whoever I meet in the street, whoever I encounter, whoever I think about, going into places, feeling safe for the whole world without borders. That's all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Violet. That's a very, very beautiful and quite deep, actually, to have a world without fear, where everybody feels safe. That's very good. Okay, would somebody else like to give some feedback, please? Yes, Tal. Just unmute yourself and then you can speak.
Yeah, regarding fear, Sigal and I had a talk about what can be done, to make civilization better and so on. And we looked at who really influences civilization now, like, the big oil fuel companies, the ones who, Bill Gates, the ones who, and the thought is that if we find a way to transform their mind, to make them not fear the changes, maybe, I don't know, maybe there are Buddhist scientists who can take it upon themselves, I'm not joking, to show them that they shouldn't be afraid to lose their fortune, but they can do good things instead of what they're doing now, to really give them a way, to influence for the better. That is the only way, because we are like this and they really control us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Somebody else? Just put your hand up if you'd like to say something. I'm going to go to the other screen. Yeah, Roy, unmute yourself, yeah? No, you're not, you're still muted.
Here we go. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Yeah, just that, this is enormous. I mean, everything you said in the introduction, that visualized the kind of ideal features of society I felt comfortable with. The problem is the gap between what one would visualize as being a kind society and the kind of motivation that drives general society at the moment. And how do you bridge it? How do you activate it? And very much inspired by the example of His Holiness and the Lamas, who have such a clear understanding of every minutiae of circumstance that they can do exactly the right thing at the right time to have the maximum beneficial effect for more and more people and situations. And so the more we develop our own wisdom, our own inner consciousness, the more we can act appropriately to trigger real change. But we have to be conscious and wise in ourselves in order to see what will be the best thing to cause that chain reaction of transformation. And that seemed to be an important way of looking at the task at hand.
Yes, that's very good. Thank you very much, Roy. That's really helpful. Somebody else? We could take 2 or 3 more, maybe. Yes, Lenny. Yeah, unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
Just adding to Roy's thoughts. Going back to the 6 ways of being of the Bodhisattva, so generosity, compassion. And I always think of Lama Yeshe saying, keep it simple, dear, keep it simple, dear. So simplicity combined to these things, I don't think it's easy. Simplicity seems to be far away for some reason. We just overcomplicate and overthink things. To me, that's helpful when I confront everyday situations when I need to decide what to do.
Great, thank you. Really nice. Yeah, these are really helpful contributions. We can really think about them all. Somebody else? No? Okay. In that case, we'll leave the feedback session there. Now, I want to just say a little bit more, and then we'll have another meditation before we finish. I want to talk about the danger. Okay. Okay, hello. Right. I'm there. You can hear me now. So, some of these teachings from the Kalachakra Tantra, unfortunately, lend themselves to an approach which is apocalyptic, like having a big battle, and then after that, everything's great because Shambhala comes to this planet. And it has been used actually in the 20th century, the Shambhala story, in order to justify certain things which weren't very good. This happened in Mongolia, for example, but there's a few examples. So one thing we need to be careful of is apocalyptic visions. And some of the things I've talked about in this course about social collapse and so forth can lend themselves to that kind of thinking. So I just want to kind of make sure that we don't go too far into, oh, everything's going to just completely collapse and then it's all terrible. And then a great big savior is going to come along and save us all. And you can see that actually in most of the world's religions. You know, they have in the Jewish religion, there's this tradition of the end times and the Messiah comes. And you get the same in Christianity with Armageddon, and you get something similar in Islam. And also the Hindus have the idea that there will be the avatar, the final avatar of Vishnu and so forth. And in the Buddhist tradition, you know, this story of the king of Shambhala is going to come and save us all is a little bit similar. So I don't think that it's very helpful to feel that there's going to be some great leader. Oh, by the way, they're always male, as it seems to happen, which is also a little bit worrying. Because it's a patriarchal vision, to be honest. What really is needed is something much more democratic in the sense that we need to create it ourselves. It needs to be our work together, and it needs to be done in a very grounded way, because apocalyptic visions lend themselves to extremism. The big savior, the big strong man is going to come and save us all from ourselves. No, I don't think so. I think we have to save ourselves from ourselves. And I think we can do that. And the feedback actually was really positive in suggesting that, you know, the inner transformation is really going to make a difference. So we need to stay calm personally, and we need to be present in the moment. Part of the extremism of apocalyptic visions comes from always talking about the future. And so we need to be a little careful about that. We need to have a thought about the future, of course, and we need to have thoughts about the past, and to understand how we got here, what problems we have. And so we need to learn from history, and we need to think about the future, what kind of future we want to create. but actually we need to be present, and we need to be on the ground, and we need to work at our personal fears. And there is a lot of fear today, and it's manifesting even in young children about the future. A very large number of people have a dark vision about the future. And this little film, Whoopi Goldberg, kind of illustrates that. So working at our fears and maintaining compassionate resilience. So compassionate resilience is based on this attitude of universal responsibility, and we need to find a way to sustain it. And that's an inner issue, because each of us has to work on our own mind in order not to be undermined by fear, and in order to be able to sustain the compassion even when we ourselves are threatened. And there will be a time when we need food and we can't get it. There will be these difficult times, and we need to develop the resilience now. By focusing on compassion, many of the issues of inner and outer conflict and all the dangers of losing our way can be resolved, because compassion is a sort of, it's actually a universal panacea for those problems of inner and outer conflict, and also of losing our way, of getting lost in stupid ideas. Things are disintegrating around us. Sometimes there will be shocks. We have to be prepared for that. There'll be shocks in our personal lives, and there'll be shocks in society as time goes by. It's coming now. It's already come this year with the coronavirus, and so on. And we need to become resilient to not being thrown over by such shocks. So this is going to be achieved by holding firm to our inner foundation of compassion. Now, compassion alone is not enough, because you can burn out from giving too much, that more than you're able to at any time. And also, compassion alone can become very emotional and very emotive, and that also is dangerous, actually. So we need wisdom. And in particular, we need the wisdom that understands and recognizes momentary impermanence. Because things change moment to moment, nothing is certain about the future. Everything can be transformed. And if we understand momentary impermanence, that's very, very powerful. But even deeper than that is to understand what we call in Buddhism emptiness, which means the lack of self-existence, inherent existence, that things are dependent on other things. Things depend on their own causes, they depend on their parts, and in particular, they depend on the mind which designates or imputes their existence. If we understand that in conjunction with the compassionate attitude, then we will be able to sustain our compassion. It will not become exhausted, and it can actually much more easily become universal, because there will be no grasping at friend and enemy, stranger, in the same way that it's traditional when we're grasping at self, that we think, oh, I mustn't go near that person, oh, this person is my friend. Well, that is all based on a false notion of reality about what we are and what the other is. We need a universal compassion and love which goes beyond that, and which does not discriminate friend and stranger. how does society get transformed? It has to come from the mind. It has to come from the mind of individuals. It can't come through force. That's not real transformation. That's just another form of oppression. And it doesn't come through propaganda or waving a flag and so forth. It comes from transforming ourselves. And cultures change by individuals collectively transforming themselves. When I say collectively, working together, and cultures change. And if you look at the history of the world, many bad things have happened, but there have also been times when there's been relative harmony in particular communities, in particular parts of the world. And that's often because certain individuals have shown the qualities of leadership based on love and compassion and wisdom. And that is perfectly possible for humans to generate such positive cultures. And so in talking about a new civilization, that is something towards which we can all contribute. And by working on our inner transformation, which essentially is spiritual, and by participating with others in whatever community situations we find ourselves, whether it's the small local community close to where you live, or whether it's a much larger community, like right now, we're in an international community. We all participate in many different communities, but by doing that with this open heart of universal compassion, universal responsibility, and also by the wisdom which doesn't grasp onto things as truly existently real, but recognizes that things depend on the mind, and that therefore transformation through the mind is possible. That way, new cultures emerge. And this is how I understand the predictions from the Kalachakra Tantra about a new civilization coming to replace the barbarian Dharma. The way I understand it is in terms of what we call hegemony, which is a gradual process, like oil seeping into cloth, whereby culture is changed through the conscious, wise, compassionate activity of individuals, affecting those around them, who then gradually begin to look in a more positive way. And this isn't done by imposing on people. This is done by connecting heart to heart with the essential nature of each person, which is actually good. People like kindness, they like love, they like compassion. And once it starts to take hold, it's like a positive virus. It spreads and it's very powerful. And I'm sure that everybody here has experience of that from your own life. I've got a feeling that you probably wouldn't be in this group now if you didn't have some experience of that already. And so I hope that this small course has helped to strengthen your resolve, your determination to continue with that process in your life in whatever way you can. And now I'm going to hand over to Shan, and we're going to conclude with 15 minutes or so of meditation and she's going to lead us through that. Thank you.